Hello and welcome to Multimodal, hosted by yours truly, bakztfuture. If you don't know me, I run a YouTube channel as well as a Substack newsletter self-titled bakztfuture, and I'm often making videos about GPT-3 and OpenAI, as well as AI in general. I wanted to start this podcast to sort of get the conversation going. I want to share some of my more raw ideas. If I had to describe my creation funnel, I almost am thinking that I want to share stuff on the podcast, get the idea out, see where it goes, maybe publish a newsletter about it, where writing sort of crystallizes it more. And when it's formally ready for distribution, then I'm thinking to put it out on my YouTube, which is the most crystallized and the most produced format of my ideas. In general, I like to just help people. I love to just talk about this stuff, and I love just sharing different things I'm thinking about, different ideas. A lot of the stuff I do on YouTube is sort of open source. Like, there's no commercial interest there. I often help people who are trying to maybe build on it or expand on it on my YouTube and stuff. And so, anyways, let's get back to earth here. That's sort of the creation funnel. I wanted to define, so you might not even know what multimodal even means. Like, what is it? What are we talking about? You're a GPT-3 guy. What does that have to do with it? So Wikipedia defines multimodal or multimodality it's the application of multiple literacies within one medium. For example, understanding a televised weather forecast involves understanding spoken language, written language, weather-specific language, geography, and symbols. So let's backtrack a bit, right? So essentially, you take GPT-3 for example, right? GPT-3 is text-based only. It's never seen the Mona Lisa. It might have read about it. It might know its significance. It might know what's in it, but it's never seen an image, right? That's how it was trained. However, if you train GPT-3 on text and images, so if you trained it on text and it also saw the Mona Lisa and perhaps other images as well, then it becomes multimodal, right? It is a multimodal AI model. It deals with different modalities. And the definition I gave is sort of talking about weather forecasts, right? Now that I think about it, to be able to follow along with a weather forecast does require a few different modalities, right? It might, if it's just given the video, it needs to be able to follow along with video. It needs to be able to distinguish between the weather forecaster. It needs to be able to process whatever he or she is saying in the video and even follow along in the cool little animations and graphics they always have in the back and make sense of that, right? So, I would say that's a very good generalized AI challenge and also some example for you to visually cling on to. And so this channel, I would say, is still a lot about GPT-3. I love GPT-3. I could talk about it for days. GPT-3 is not multimodal, but I think it's sort of the OG AI model, in my opinion, in terms of, I think it will have significant impacts on AI models of the future. But I will also be talking about multimodal AI models, specifically DALL-E. DALL-E is an upcoming model that OpenAI is working on. I'm not sure when they're going to release it, but it is text and images. It's a multimodal model. And I think I'm sort of using multimodal, quote unquote, as sort of just kind of an excuse as well to talk about creativity in general. I want to, maybe have conversations with different creatives. And I also am really interested in what AI even means for people who create. How will it change how we create? And also, I'm a pretty creative person myself. Sometimes I'm coding, sometimes I'm, editing videos. I'm working on this podcast. That's audio. I feel like I'm multimodal, personally, right? And so, the podcast is kind of, it's about multimodal AI, it's about creativity, it's about multimodal stuff in general. And the podcast is also, it's about me. I apologize, that sounds pretty conceited, but, I do want to share some of my raw ideas, some of the different kinds of things I'm thinking about, putting them out there and sort of just seeing how you guys feel about it. What you think. I'd love to know if maybe there's certain technical errors or technical mistakes, technicalities I'm getting wrong, so I can correct them. And also just to maybe get feedback. And So this podcast, I'm going to be sharing behind the scenes kind of YouTube stuff. And I'm also going to be sharing upcoming scripts, maybe providing more context behind my videos, and maybe even I wouldn't mind doing sort of like a dev deep dive. I've noticed on my YouTube channel, like I just don't get time. Like, a YouTube video can only be so long, in my opinion. I don't get time to talk about like sort of the technical challenges and what it was like working with different tools and stuff like that, right? So, it will be kind of about my work and my process and all those other things as well. The way I'm looking at it, I'm sort of calling it like the idea creation funnel. And so the notion is I feel like I should have a podcast, share my ideas in a really raw way, unedited, unscripted, maybe formalize it a little bit further on my Substack newsletter, put it in writing, see where it goes, see what the Slack community has to say, what Reddit has to say, what Twitter has to say, maybe Clubhouse if there's enough interest. And then it will finally be ready for YouTube, where it is more evolved, more formalized. A lot of my ideas could use a lot of punching up, especially things I'm debating or sort of questions I'm raising. And so anyways, so this is sort of the rawest format where I'll be sharing stuff. And that's how I kind of look at its role. Probably even more raw than this, to be honest, generally is just Twitter. I've noticed just tweeting sometimes, a lot of my tweets become videos, right? And so that's sort of how I'm thinking about my creation funnel at the moment. But anyway, so this is just the inaugural episode. The next few episodes, to start with, I'm going to be talking about why I hate the term prompt engineering. I think that's going to be the next episode. And I mean, look, this is really GPT-3 insider baseball, but this is just an opinion I have. I wrote a piece on it on my newsletter. It generated some interest on Reddit, a lot of interesting feedback, a lot of interesting comments, and I brought it up on Clubhouse a few times. In the next episode, I'm going to be extending this rant on why I think prompt engineering is just a dumb name and it's sort of a step backwards. And I'm also going to be sharing some upcoming scripts I have for my YouTube channel as well, and sort of talking about my next big YouTube project called GPTX, DALL-E, and our multimodal future. It is a series about 22 episodes long. Like, it's probably one of the biggest projects I've done ever. And so I'll be sharing the first two scripts just to get them out there and just to sort of get some feedback from you guys. I hope it makes for easy and interesting listening as a podcast. Anyways, so that's what I have next. That's what the podcast is about. This is where I explain where it fits in sort of the creation funnel of my work. And anyways, I'm just really excited to kickstart this conversation here. And maybe in this way, you'll get to know me in a more scaled out way. Otherwise, you can always, follow me on Twitter, hit me up there. I'm pretty active. I have a Substack newsletter as well. Some people prefer more of a written sort of relationship. I always have my YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe and like. And, I could use help getting the word out for this podcast as well. So, make sure you're subscribed on all the different Apple Podcasts. I use Pocket Casts, Spotify. I'm hoping to distribute it everywhere, and make sure you tell your friends about it. A lot of people I've come across in the GPT-3 community have seen my videos before, but they might not know me or know I have a podcast. And so I'm just really excited to maybe get them on board as well. So make sure you tell them about it. And anyways, so I'll have links in the description to all the different ways to connect with me. And anyways, I'm really excited to continue this discussion as a podcast. Thanks so much, and I'm excited for this new adventure.